22 minutes past 7. Here's a plan guaranteed to catch the eye of car drivers everywhere and also of people who live on small but busy streets. Fine drivers if they go into certain streets where they don't live. The idea is to stop those streets being used as a rat run, and the first of the schemes, we think probably the first in the country, has been introduced by a council in central London. Councillor Ben Coleman is the Cabinet Member for Hammersmith and Fulham Council, who's in charge of the traffic reduction scheme and is on the line. Morning to you.
Morning.
Tell us how it works.
Well, we've had massive problems with transport in the south of the borough, in South Fulham, for a long, long time. And we decided to work with residents, which we spent a year doing that, working up a plan with residents to reduce traffic by introducing a scheme based on what we couldn't do before because we didn't have the smart camera technology, but we do now. And we're using what's something called automatic number plate recognition. And we are enabling all the people who live in Hammersmith and Fulham still to drive through these streets, but people who come out of the borough, massive rat running through the streets, 50,000 cars going down some streets in a week, that's no longer possible.
You're also preventing, though, aren't you, people visiting people in the area whose number plate is not known. In other words, they too would be fined.
No, we're not preventing visitors at all. Anyone who wants to have a visitor just needs to give their details, as they do now for parking, to enter their details on the system, and they get free access and they can visit the area.
They might not know
like
their details, though.
Then they can come around the area and they can get in through a slightly longer route, but they can still access the whole area. But they wouldn't know their details. If I may just ask you, on visitors, when you're talking about visitors, are you talking about people visiting family, or you're talking about businesses and black taxis and buses and coaches?
No, let's take the example of social care. So someone who's an elderly person living there who gets visited by people, he or she is not going to know their number plates, etc. Those people might pay when they arrive in the area. Can that still be done?
That's a really good point. I happen also to be cabinet member for social care in the borough, and that's a really important point. We've made it that any carer can become one of the permitted vehicles, and that means that we've spoken to all our care agencies, we've made them aware of this, and we're telling all the people doing care, they just need to give us their number plate, we'll enter them on the system, they'll be permitted vehicles, and go through the area as before. Because what we're in at the moment is we're in a bedding in period, and there are things coming up, and we're reacting to them to try and get the scheme to work as smoothly as possible.
Yes.
But the actual scheme itself is it's very new, it's very different, and it has already radically cut the traffic in that part of Fulham.
I suppose
so we think it's a success, and people are telling us they like it.
Well, the issue, I suppose, is the degree of involvement with you, the council, with bureaucracy, with officialdom that people have to have in order to conduct what until now was a fairly ordinary part of their lives. And I guess that's going to be the test, isn't it? Is whether residents tell you, actually, we don't want to do all this rigmarole of getting people to be able to come and see us, etc., etc. We don't want it.
Yeah, well, nobody wants anybody to have to go through rigmarole. But if you go and visit I think you live in London, but if you go and visit someone in another part of London, you have to pay for parking, or they have to get a visitor's parking permit. And it's the same here. You just have to get an access permit. And it's not a more complicated system than exists for normal parking.
Can it be done after the event, as it can with the London
No, it's like normal
charge?
parking. It has to be done at the time. It's like the normal parking system, which is in place all across London.
Then if I go through by mistake, you make the money off me.
If you go through by mistake, if you go through, it's like saying you park in a street by mistake. The point is we have to have good signage, and we're getting feedback on the signage that's in place, and the scheme has to be clear. We think it's clear, but we're getting feedback, and we're improving it with residents. The whole scheme was developed with hundreds of residents. We had lots of public meetings. We had an online meeting at the beginning of lockdown, which 400 people were at. And then I chaired a working party of residents with Labour and Conservative councillors on it.
Are you going to make money out of it?
No, at the moment, no, we're not making money. I mean, the interesting thing is there is a box junction, often described by journalists as a notorious box junction, which was making, I think, £34,000 a year before we were elected. We've been bringing that down ever since we came in, but it's dropped by 3/4 the income from that since the scheme came in. The aim is not to make money. The aim is to get people slamming down the M3, slamming across Wandsworth Bridge Road, using these residential streets as a rat run to cut through. Stop that, so we don't have thousands of non-borough residents going through residential streets, and the whole of London suffers from this problem, and we're taking measures to try and tackle it. And I hope that people will look at this and see what can be learned from it.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, it's fascinating, and